And for us, the root of the problem of illicit drug-related problems are more than drugs, drug prohibition. We fight to eradicate those roots, to repeal drug prohibition embedded in national laws and international drug treaties. So talking about the UN, Senator Nolan already explained that in '98 the special session of the United Nations General Assembly solemnly adopted in New York an ambitious plan for a drug-free world by 2008. Virtually all the governments in the world were united in saying, we can do it. This was the slogan, we can do it. And they tried hard to do it. Taxpayer money, hundreds of millions of dollars, has been spent to fumigate thousands of hectares, or even to finance the Taliban, yes, the Taliban, in Afghanistan until September 11, in order to convince them, to politely convince them to eradicate poppy cultivation. Much more significant sums have been spent at local and national levels to implement prohibition, and mainly to try to arrest small marijuana offenders, consumers. So despite those efforts, positive results are virtually non-existent. In his report before the United Nations Commission on Narcotic Drugs, the head of the United Nations Drugs and Crime Program, Mr. Antonio Maria Costa, recently stated in Vienna, at the meeting in Vienna, stated about the number of people abusing heroin, there is little indication that this figure changed much since the late 90s. About cocaine, there are indications of a shift in market. About cannabis, marijuana, abuse increases have been reported in almost all regions. About synthetic drugs, and I'm quoting, the expansion of amphetamine-type stimulants market is growing. So, guess what's the title of the report of the UN Chief on Drugs? Well, the title is not Our Big Failure, is wavering between psychology and wishful thinking, is encouraging progresses towards still distant goals. At the International Anti-Prohibitionist League, we published a World Drug Report based upon a critical reading of public official information. And that report is available here. But also, with all their limits and manipulation, official data would be enough. They would be enough to state definitely that the war on drugs is a failure. Unfortunately, when confronted by ideology, facts are ignored. The United Nations Commission on Narcotic Drugs has just confirmed in Vienna its unachievable goals for a drug-free world. Arnold Triebach told us that prohibition cannot stand forever, and it is true. But it is even more certain to say that we cannot wait for prohibition to implode by itself. We can't. Because in the meantime, terrorists and organized crime profits are on the rise. Official corruption, violence, and public health problems grow with them. This is why we are also here to talk about our actions. Well, after the Brussels conference of October 2002, held at the European Parliament in the framework of the global campaign, Out from the Shadows, and that conference was for the relaunch of the International Anti-Prohibitionist League, we presented the resolution, Arnold mentioned it, for the anti-prohibitionist reform of United Nations drug conventions. This resolution asked for the legal control of currently illegal substances. So the legal control, not the law of the jungle or the free market. We think that drugs are free now because they are in the hands of criminals. We want a legal control. Well, after a few days, 109 members of the European Parliament formally co-sponsored the text at the European Parliament, representing more or less 60 million European electors. And they started a process that finally led on April 10 to an historic vote that came up only one vote short to approve the reform proposal, 222 against 223. The text, the same resolution, has been signed by 245 legislators from 27 countries and signed online on the site www.antiprohibitionist.org by 8,000 citizens from 91 countries. It has been formally presented as a parliamentary resolution in Greece, New Zealand, Canada, and Colombia. In particular, in Colombia and Peru, on the occasion of my Central and South American tour with Marco Perduca, we found the support of legislators from those areas devastated by forced crop eradication and narco destabilization.